Let me tell you about the day I almost fired someone who had been one of my best. His name was Marcus, and the way I almost handled that situation taught me the most important lesson of my entire leadership career. So, Marcus has been on the floor for about 90 days, and from the outside looking in, he was a problem. He was inconsistent, his customer interactions were hit or miss, his numbers were below where I needed them to be. He had been coached twice, and nothing seemed to be sticking. So I got frustrated, genuinely frustrated, because I had a standard on that floor and Marcus was not meeting it. So I did what a lot of managers do when a team member is not performing. I started building the case. I documented the conversations. I tracked the missed targets. I started mentally preparing myself for the termination conversation because I had decided Marcus was not going to make it. And then one afternoon, I was on the floor watching him struggle through a customer interaction that I had coached him twice on already, and something stopped me. Not what he was doing wrong, what I had never actually shown him how to do right. I had told Marcus what the standard was, but I never once stood beside him and shown him what it looked like in real time. Never walked him through it step by step, never let him practice it in a low stakes moment before I held him accountable in a high stakes one. I handed him a standard and expected a performance without ever giving him development. And I was calling it accountability problem. It was not an accountability problem. It was my problem. For over the 10 years I was in retail, I trained employees that most managers has already written off. Team members who struggle catching on to things, team members who never held a job before, team members who walked on the floor with zero confidence and left 2 years after running their own store. Not because I had a magic formula, because I refused to hold anyone to a standard I had not first invested in teaching them. That was not softness. That was the most disciplined leadership decision I made every single day. And it produced the lowest turnover, the highest retention, and the strongest team culture I have ever seen on retail. Not because my team was exceptional when they arrived, because I developed them before I expected anything from them. Now, here's the truth that changed everything about how I led. You cannot hold people to the standards you have never taught them. Because right now, there is a manager watching this who has Marcus on their floor, a team member they already mentally checked out on, and someone they are building a case against. Someone they have never told themselves is just not cut out for this. And the question I need you to ask yourself before you take one more step in that direction is this. Did you teach them? Not tell them, not hand them a training packet on their first day and assume they absorbed it. Not show them once and expect retention. Not coach them on what they did wrong without ever modeling what it looks like first. Did you actually develop them? Because here is what retail does to managers that nobody talks about. It promotes the best managers and then expects them to produce what they themselves were never given. You were handed a team, a standard, a set of expectations, and nobody developed you first either. So you led the way you were led. You hold people accountable the way you were held accountable. You expect the performance the way performance was expected from you, without the development that was actually supposed to come first. And the cycle continues. Top performer gets promoted, promotes without preparing, holds without teaching, loses people they could have kept, calls it an accountability problem when it was always a development problem. Here is what breaks the cycle. A leader who decides that development is not optional, not something you get to when things slow down. Development is the job. It is the thing that makes accountability possible. Because you cannot hold someone to a standard without a clear conscience until you honestly say you gave them the tool and every model, every real-time example they needed to meet it. And when you can say that, when you have a genuinely invested in the person standing in front of you before you ever open the accountability conversation, everything changes. Not just your team's performance, the way your team sees you. Because a manager who develops before they expect becomes the leader their team will run through a wall for. Not because of fear, because of trust. And trust is the only foundation that produces the kind of consistent, long-term performance that gets you noticed, that gets you moved, that gets you to the next level you've been actually working towards. Marcus did not get fired. Marcus became one of the strongest team members on my floor. Not because he suddenly figured it out, because I finally did. If you have someone on your team right now that you have already started mentally checking out on, before you take one more step towards the exit conversation, ask yourself one question. Did I develop them before I expected from them? Because if the answer is no, the conversation is not accountability conversation. It's a mirror. The discipline leader system was built on a non-negotiable truth: development before expectation, not a concept, not philosophy you agree with in theory and abandon under pressure. As a practice, as a system, as a foundation, every single accountability you ever have is built on top of, because you cannot retain what you never develop. And right now, there is a Marcus on your floor waiting for a leader who finally understands that. Grab the discipline leader system right now. Click the link in my bio. Follow for more. This is the work.